Whoa, why the hell are we rotoscoped? More importantly, what in God's name are you up to?
I'm older now, so I'm running against the wind.
I meant to ask you about all that Bob Seger music you were listening to in the toilet, but then again, I realized I didn't care.
Well, you should care, since we are reviewing one of the greatest animated directors to ever use rotoscoping like Picasso used cubes.
Oh, you mean Ralph Bakshi and his film American Pop? Actually, the Seeger song at the end of that film was Night Moves, not Running Against the Wind.
Of course, but I am paying homage to a director who ran against the wind, so I am allowed some creative liberties.
Whatevs. While the animation studios of the 70s were cranking out kids' cartoons, Ralph Bakshi became Hollywood's top adult animated filmmaker. His distinctive and sometimes criticized rotoscope films cover a wide range of genres, from underground comics to classic fantasy literature.
I especially like how he evolved and who he partnered with throughout his career. He worked with counterculture underground comics artist Robert Crumb on Fritz the Cat, which, by the way, was Hollywood's first X-rated animated movie showing marijuana use and sex.
Word. Aside from the indie films like Heavy Traffic or the racially controversial Coonskin, he also went on to direct more streamlined, major Hollywood pictures like Lord of the Rings, which earned him success, but a falling out with his producer which ended any kind of animated trilogy from being made. Later on, Bakshi flexed his muscles in movies like Fire and Ice.
Ha! I get what you did there. Flexed his muscles because of the Frank Frazetta theme. Also, did you know that other notable artists like James Gurney, who created Dinotopia, and the landscape painter Thomas Kincaid got their starts on Bakshi's film as background painters?
I was never a big fan of that style of animation. American Pop has got to be his most unique movie, kind of his magnum opus.
Visually, it looks like his other films, but it's so different, Bakshi wanted to create a more personal movie reflecting the people he had met in his past.
Exactly. It's a multi-generational story about a musical family which begins in the Prohibition era, covers the music of the 40s and 60s, and ends in the 80s music scene. Also, aside from the music, drugs played a big part of the story.
Yes, a big part. My favorite character's gotta be Tony, who seems to be loosely based on Marlon Brando. Tony is the songwriter for a 60s group inspired by Jefferson Airplane.
The film does do some dope things throughout, like handing over the extra era of music to another character. Tony's kid, Pete, becomes a representation of the 70s and 80s hardcore music scene based on surviving. And, you guessed it, drugs again.
I absolutely love the scene when Pete negotiates to have the producers listen to his music by tying in his cocaine transaction with it. And how powerful was that scene when Benny plays Lily Marlene on the piano and is killed by an injured Nazi soldier?
American Pop is not only meant to be seen, but to be heard. As time goes by, Lily Marlene, To Somebody to Love. These songs are musical history. Ralph Bakshi's reputation was so solid that he was able to make a soundtrack for the film that included Bob Dylan, Jefferson Airplane, Janis Joplin, The Doors, George Gershwin, the Mamas and the Papas, Herbie Hancock, Lou Reed, and Louis Prima.
And let's not forget Bob Seger. By the way, did you know that Ralph Bakshi got permission to use those songs for under $1 million?
Under $1 million? Damn! Nowadays, that shit would have been worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's right. Bakshi went on to produce other hits like the sexually charged Cool World, which starred Kim Basinger, Brad Pitt, and Gabriel Byrne. But American Pop is still my favorite.
For me, rotoscope animation always looks semi-complete, and the movements never look quite as smooth or natural. But it's his body of animation projects that defies norms and promotes controversial issues, which is why I'm giving Ralph Bakshi a 3-star FU rating of Furiously Cool.
I disagree, Boogie. The world has enough kid cartoons that tell you to believe in yourself. It takes an icon to pull Mickey Mouse's red shorts down in front of an audience, which is what Ralph Bakshi does with his animation. So, I'm giving him a 4-star FU rating of awesome.
Now that we've rated it, I'm starving like Marvin. What's for lunch? Meatballs, subs, pizza?
Ha! Not quite, but something just as nutritious.
Are you kidding me? That's lunch? Cornflakes? Rotoscoped cornflakes? What have you been doing all day? I'll tell you what you've been doing all day. You've been standing in front of that fan all day and singing Bob Seger songs.
Well, excuse me. It's quite tiring to run against the wind all morning. Besides, if it's good enough for Tony and Pete, then it's good enough for us.
Anyway, enjoy your cereal. I'm going to find the tech department and have them turn off this dumbass rotoscope filter. And after that, I'm going to go out and get some real food. I'm out of here, y'all.